7/24/2, and this is an accurate copy of it, and the form just needs to be changed. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
My handwriting 101 skills, looks like it's easy to fill that.
No, they need to do this. Did you want to go ahead and get these put on the totals? Because of the
Kevin, do you
budget?
have anything else?
No, I just want to suggest that they should sign one of those written receipts every time, every precinct on the night of the election,
They do.
with their numbers, but
They do.
They
And,
do. That's
they
why I
do.
got those, but then I have to
some
go
of them
through.
weren't created that night, you didn't have them, they had to create them this week, so I just want from now on them to do it that night, that's all.
They can do that. The thing of it is, they had totals at the bottom. And I did notice that.
And they may have in good faith been thinking that was
Yeah.
sufficient, but if we could, we really gotta match this regulation, that's
And
it.
you might,
The other thing, yes,
you
Jack.
might talk to the poll workers when they have when somebody comes in and it's a provisional ballot, is put their voting precinct right on that yellow, that
We can do that.
envelope, that right on
That
it.
is-
Like
that's
Ward
what I
1,
did.
Baxter, Ward 2, Columbus, have right on that yellow, so we know what, and that saves from opening them up and running through the machine, we know what ward we're on. You might add that to that when you go back to school, if that'd make it a little easier on us.
Yes. Well, see,
Not on
that's
them, but it'll make it easier on us.
when people communicate in a good way, things can get accomplished.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we need to do that. Yeah. Do we wanna open this or do this? right now?
These guys control how we go, what do you wanna do next, Richard?
These are the
Do
partial
you
counts.
have anything else, Kevin?
No, that's mainly it. Crystal's stating that those numbers on each of those documents entitled report and claim for judges and clerks' fees, at least to the extent completed or accurate, is that right?
They are very accurate.
All right. And they, all of them have an accurate total of ballots sent out. Did all of them have the ballots noted on them? All forms, every one of them, did they list the ballots that were voted?
Oh, yes.
Okay, every one of them?
They're actually, and then
They
you
did
put it
now.
on this,
They did.
after they
Monday
did.
now.
All
They
right.
did. It's just, here, right, they all did on Monday.
Crystal, the
This
only
right
other thing I
here
mentioned,
is,
if
they're on
they're
the
gonna sign their
tapes.
names to it, I don't think we can write numbers after the fact. They have to come in and put them in.
but if they don't, if they're not caught that evening, we had one woman that,
Well, they're
on
just signing
ballots,
what they thought
she
was
put,
accurate that night, and you
instead
gotta
of the
catch it
30
that evening when they come in.
Republican ballots, she put 9 and gave the 30 to the Democrats, which kind of threw it off. So, those are things that the election officer is supposed to catch. So,
Okay.
yeah, there's, I mean,
Well,
I do
hopefully
have
this
a job
improves
to
the
fulfill.
process, that's what we're
Yeah,
trying to get at.
and that's exactly what it is, and there is accountability because they bring in that paper on tape and it's there. All the spoil
To
is
meet
there.
that regulation, we need to bring in the
Provisionals
receipt.
are there.
All right.
And the other thing that you might understand, each ballot that is passed out at the polling places is required to have a special mark. I don't know if anybody has ever noticed it, that when the ballot person hands you that, or they stamp it with a little stamp, and that's your special mark for your ballot. That's how you know that there hasn't been a ballot that's gone through that machine, that wasn't handed out. When it comes to provisional ballots, it's a little different because of the fact that those are just grabbed real fast, so it takes so long to do a provisional. And we give them a little more opportunity to vote.
And you stated it's a small pink or red mark at the
It's
bottom.
pink or red.
All right, I saw
And all
that.
voted ballots are back there, they cannot be opened, they're sealed up, the only thing that can open them is a court order. And it
What?
takes a judge to do it.
What if that stamp wasn't at the voting place?
If the stamp, all of
That should be on
them,
the receipt that these
that's on the
people signed.
receipt, and they all had it. There was,
Not according to the phone calls I received that morning.
well, that's not true, because all of them had a stamp, so.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
You just
they
don't
said they
get
all
one
had a
more.
stamp, they all had a stamp in the rag, because I remember.
I'll let
we
that
did-
person know that
Yeah.
what he saw
That's-
didn't really happen.
But, like I said, the stamp is there. We
You
had,
might
did
wanna
have,
check with Weir then.
that's the one I got a call on, because I spoke with, I know who you're talking about, because I spoke with him. And he, the little gentleman that works up at Weir, been there for years. When he got his supplies out of the bag, there was only one ballot, and he could not find that stamp. I got the call, I drove to Weir to take him a stamp. I got there, I walked in, and that stamp was sitting right in front of him, and I said his name, and I said, "Where'd you get your stamp? I was bringing you another one." He says, "I found it by my foot on the floor." I mean, it's only this big, and it had fallen, and he's an elderly man.
So did his ballot count,
Yes, it does count. It went through that machine.
even though it doesn't have a pink or
Even
blue
though it
stamp
didn't
on
have
it?
a pink mark on it, the thing of it is, that's something that I do, so, it's on there, but, my poll worker, he really apologized to me for that happening. He felt really bad, and I told him, I said, the ballot counted because the number changed. That little pink thing doesn't change anything on your ballot. It's just there to let you know that that ballot was handed to that person to vote with. And if you go back there and look through those, they're all like that. They all
Are
got
all the
some
stamps
shape.
one color?
No, they can be green, they can be blue, it just
What's
depends.
the ones that you use?
The ones here at the courthouse, I don't know, pink and red and blue. We have a big container of them, and they're all different the shapes. They might be a little star, they might be a little circle, a little dot, the arrow, we got
So
one.
then other than decoration, what are they used for?
That's just a special mark that we put on the ballots to show that those ballots, somebody didn't just pick up a bunch of ballots and start, like you were saying. They can't do that, because they have to have a mark.
Be consistent.
It's a special mark, and they've done it for years, and that's something that.
It just seems to me you'd wanna be consistent with a stamp though, so.
Well, no, we just use them, then each place has their own stamp. So that way we can pretty well tell, where the ballot, if they need to open it, we know where the ballot came from, too. Baxter has a certain thing, Weir does. But like I said, I know which incident you're speaking of because of the fact that he did call. And I know that my poll worker was just all upset. And I, told him, I says, "I'll bring you another stamp." Well, then I get there and it's there and it had fallen by his foot. And it's an elderly man. So, you've got to think about these things, and I do that.
Okay, let's
Gotta
move
have
on if we
compassion.
can, please. Do we have the final from the provisionals?
We have.
Brenna?
Yeah.
I have one more question, and you're right with that. Crystal, just to be sure, and then I'll feel like and recommend they can certify accuracy unless there's something that comes up from the audience or their questions, or you, that comes at least to a reasonable extent. But on these documents that you've given us, report and claim for judges and clerks' fees, is any of the information written underneath the columns, total ballots sent out, ballots voted, provisional ballots, ballots not voted, ballots spoiled, or total ballots returned? Did you write any of the numbers into any of those?
I did on a couple of those, because I got it from the poll worker. So, that's something that I do know, and then I.
And that's what I was gonna ask. In every instance that you wrote the numbers, you were
I'm
asking.
being honest about it,
I
because I had to
understand.
call.
You called them this week after Monday,
Yes,
and
because we have a.
you had them confirm the numbers. What did they confirm them from?
Because I couldn't read what they had down there.
Okay.
And so I had to make sure. You will notice, like on this one, it's very difficult to read here. See, like those, they do stuff on this one.
So you supply,
See,
you,
like that one, you can't really read it, so I have to ask.
if the
This
number
is-
wasn't readable, you wrote it in, right?
Yeah, because I couldn't see it.
But you didn't go through and supply numbers to blank columns, did you?
Just a couple, because I had to ask them where they were at.
Where they were at?
Yeah, where they wanted them, because they put them on the wrong column.
So you've got the markouts for when they put them on the wrong column.
Yeah, and so you have to do that so you can actually read what's going on with it. They're in such a hurry that evening when they do come in. They do this very quickly. The supervising judge will give this, she's generally, they will go around to each table and get these numbers. The ballot lady, the ballot gentleman, we do have some gentlemen, you know, they'll say, well, how many ballots you got over there? Well, you know, how many's, they go through to figure out how many they have left.
So if you fill in a blank space, it was only because they put it in the wrong column?
Exactly. And so like on here, I added these numbers because they had a sheet just like this, but they couldn't find it. And that happens. So, but this is what they turned in, and that's what the total was. See the sheet like that, 646, they had two.
Did you convert this into a form then?
I just used what they
Use
gave.
what they gave you.
I
All
just
right.
used what they gave me, bless their hearts, because of the fact that you have to, you know.
Okay, let me see that one.
Do you see like in here, I added this is my part over here, so it would go with it.
All right.
I could do that, so that's what I did, so then they could see Ward 1, Ward 2. And I get these numbers, you know, from what they certified to me on the night of the election.
Well, thank you for answering the
Yeah,
question.
you're very welcome.
Okay. So no number is supplied here that wasn't certified by a judge as being accurate as far as the ones you wrote
As
in.
far, yeah, as far, that's the only thing I did.
All right. And who'd you go to, the supervising judge in each instance?
It just depended, we had one supervising judge and one that had, she hadn't signed off on the case, she forgot. And so she had to come in and sign,
All
you
right.
know. And like I said, these are generally in the suitcase on the night they come in, and so a lot of times we don't even look at these, you know, when they come. So, you know, it isn't for a couple days that, you know, we're busy doing the numbers too. I mean, and we, you know. But that's how
Any
we
more
measure.
questions?
The real certification is when they bring in the card, the PCI card. And then they also bring the tape where they signed off. That's the receiving part. That tells us what is actually transpired.
And they signed all those tapes that night, right?
All those
All
are
right.
signed right then and there, just like they signed today.
All right.
Yeah, that's just what goes through the machine, clarify that, that's not, nothing,
The
Yeah,
poll
that
votes-
is-
spoils,
votes.
nothing, that's just.
That
The spoils-
certifies votes that were cast.
Yeah, and the
only.
spoils
This
are-
certifies what happened to each ballot.
Yes, and like here, the provisionals are kept in a bag,
Okay.
Vicki, run over there, get a bag real quick and show them.
Well,
Okay.
Richard, I'll let you know, the bag does have the tape.
Yeah.
It shows votes cast, and that was zeroed out originally, politically through.
That's everything out of the machine.
Right, machine.
But this is in a plastic bag, like the clear ones, like we put the ballots in. Just
Okay.
like that, oops, sorry, see, and this is what they get. And, you know, this does go, it'll say spoiled on it, it'll say Baxter Springs
That's how they're
spoiled.
kept there.
This is how they come back. We can't open these, you know, they're already sealed in the
I guess the key point is at the site, the supervising judge needs to be stating how many there are, and do it that night, have it in at the same night as the election.
Yeah, the provisional clerk, it tells you the total.
Someone does, yes.
Yeah, and then the ballot clerk tells you the total, supervising judge.
And the provisionals can be put on this form.
They can, but this one, we have a different type of election because it's Democrat and Republican. The unaffiliated are just, you know, they get to choose either or. So it's a little more difficult to keep track in a primary. And I've spoken with other counties and they were the same boat, so, you know.
I seen somebody's hand up out there, so,
I was just wondering, on
Yes,
the
sir.
early voting ballots,
Uh-huh.
how do you know, do they all come back in? Do you check on the ones that don't come back in, or?
You mean like if mailing out
Yeah.
advance? We don't check because that's not part of our job.
Okay, do
The
they
county
look
clerk does
just,
not do that.
do
What
they look
do-
just like the ballots that you vote on?
Oh, yeah, they're the exact same
Well, I
thing.
just wondered, I talked to a gal that her son had got, or was supposed to get one a couple of years ago, well, he got another one this time, and she just threw it away. So how do you, you know,
If they throw it away and they don't return it, then I can't do anything about it. It's kind of like a voter not voting and walking out with a
Yep,
ballot.
you
That
don't
happens
check
at
it
polling places.
before you mail them out, you don't check if they want one?
No, because if they're on permanent, they actually, if they're on permanent